following through, being your word, doing what you say you are going to do, getting better at systems. What would your advice be to someone that just struggles with that? Like they just cannot get a grip on following through on things.
You just have to be willing to be dumb. You have to be willing to just feel like an idiot, because if I don't do it, who will do it? And so that in of itself just forces you to sit in the stuff, to learn it. And then guess what happens? You learn how to do it.
And how do you do that?
Definitely leaning on God and really taking everything to Him and be like, Lord, please take this from me. I know that you have made me smart. You have made me creative. You have made me able to figure out so many things. I'm getting chills. Knowing that and believing and having a relationship with Jesus and God is just like, it's the biggest life hack that you could ever have.
So we have Samantha Huber here. If you know me, you know Sam. She's I hate even saying the word best friend because I'm like, this is not a friendship. She is my little sister for sure.
Yeah.
We met when she was 16. I was 21 at the salon that we basically started working at together I started in 2008. She started in 2009. She was the manager of my salon. In 28, I pulled her from the salon and she started working with me on PIP. And she has been here through the whole journey, helped me grow every single thing brick by brick. I mean, I tell her and our other friend, Danielle, who's the middle sister, that I will spend the rest of my eternity with them by my side. So when I leave this earth or when they leave this earth, like we're going to be together. This is a relationship that just goes so much deeper than anything else. And I think about what's so crazy is the three of us have always worked together. So Sam basically helped me build PIP. Danielle was with me the day that I started NEPE, and then she just purchased NEPE last year. And it's just been a beautiful relationship through everything, even through the hard times. And many people can't do that, but we do it so, so, so well. And I want to talk a minute, Sam, and I want, you to kind of explain. I want people to know Sam's skill set because normally I'm in the limelight and people don't see like what Sam really does. And Sam works just as much as I do. And she is just as good at her job as I am mine. And she has this ability that most people don't. She has an ability that I do not have. And it's funny, Sam, I don't think that you know this, but I was going back and forth in the DMs with a past student of ours, Stephanie from Moxie.
Yeah.
And I had said something about you on our story, and she was like, everyone needs a Sam. And I said, yes. Everyone, like if you want to be a successful salon, if you want to be a successful business
Yeah.
period, not even salon, you have to have a Sam. And she said that every time they would go to hire, like either somebody for the front desk or somebody in management, definitely somebody that was going to be like more of a leadership or a big position. She said they would talk to themselves and say, we have to find us a Sam. And then she said, it's like finding a Samager. And I said, I'm so stealing.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm so stealing that phrase. Like talk a little bit about your role with PIP and like what you feel like you bring to the table and why it's so rare.
Yeah, I think what I do with PIP is honestly, it's hard to say because my hands are in so much, and I feel like it's always been that way, but my brain just works that way. I feel like the skill set that I have, if you want to call it an integrator, but an integrator is essentially, if you look at like the people that are listening that are like, what the heck's an integrator? Because the first time that I heard that term, I was like, oh, what a what? But the integrator is essentially somebody who works with the CEO or the owner of a company when the owner is sitting in, and you hear us talk about this in PIP University all the time, where the owner of the company is the CEO, you're the visionary. It's the integrator's job to come in, take that vision, and then build it out and bring it into fruition through processes, systems, SOPs, making sure that there's follow through and communication throughout that building process as you're growing and evolving. So essentially, I feel like that's what I do. And over the years, it's definitely evolved so much. When, at the beginning of 2018, when we first started building out Rich Life Hairstylist, it was a lot of I was helping you with a lot of product development. I recorded lessons. We were figuring out all the tech on, I don't know if you remember that first time when we had to do that live webinar and neither of us knew how to do anything. And that's kind of how it started out. And as we've grown, my hands are definitely a lot of our sales processes, marketing processes, our student facing things, and like our onboarding processes. And so my brain just, Heather will essentially be like, hey, we need this to happen. Can you just, whatever that needs to look like, can you just put it into place? And so that's essentially what I do. There's a lot
Yeah.
of tech on the back end that comes into that, but it's essentially taking the vision and bringing it out of Heather's head and making it a real thing that works.
And what is like why Sam is so good at that is and we developed this skill set together, a certain skill set together in 2018. Like all we had known was the hair industry. And to be honest, a hair salon, I'm not going to say it was easy to me, but it was simple and I could figure it out. There wasn't very many variables that I was like, I don't really know how to do that.
Right.
And if there were, it was few. And I had so many people around me, mentors around me that I could easily just shoot a text or pick up the phone, call and ask.
Yeah.
With PIP University, it is completely different. And so we signed up for this program in 2018. They're no longer in business because their growth was so massive. They didn't have the systems and processes in place, but I'm so glad that we were able to take that because it catapulted. I mean, it completely catapulted us. And we got into this program. I paid $100,000 for it. And literally the first 4, 5, 6 months, we had no clue what they were even saying on calls. Like,
Yeah.
we did not understand what people are always like, I mean, half the time I still don't know what I'm doing. And it's like, yeah, you kinda do. When we were in this, all we knew was a salon.
Yeah.
We didn't even really know what a funnel meant. We
Girl,
didn't
I remember hearing the word funnel and I was having coffee with one of my girlfriends that was like in marketing. And I was like, what is a funnel? She got a little napkin and drew out like a funnel. And she was like, here's your top of the funnel, middle, bottom. And I just remember being like, okay, like awesome. Thank you for telling me that because I had no idea.
I mean, and there were so many other things. And so that is, I think, where we learned the true definition of resourcefulness and
Mm.
being proactive. And that skill set has gotten stronger for the both of us
Oh, yeah.
since then. And so now when there's something like, for example, this YouTube show and podcast, when it comes to like video editing, like that's one thing that I mean, she's done a little bit here and there before. Like when we used to do ads way back in the day, she would do some video editing, but not to this extent. And I was like, you're gonna be the one that's editing our videos for right now because we're bootstrapping this thing. And so literally that's all the guidance that I gave her. And she took it and ran with it. So she has this ability to have no idea what she's doing and then sit in the stuck for long enough to figure it out. She can sit like before this started, Sam, you were like, before we started this podcast, you said, I mean, I can basically figure anything out. And
Yeah.
that is an incredible skill set. And every business owner, we primarily obviously talk to salons. It is so vital that you have this because most salon owners, I would say even more than 95%, but I'm just going to say 95%. Most salon owners have the skill set of being the visionary. You're creative. A lot of salon owners want to identify with being ADHD. You've got to find someone that is like Sam that can sit in front of a computer, can be really uncomfortable, do the hard things, create the systems, but that's not it. On the other side of it, your other strength is your ability to follow through.
Mhm.
You follow through better than anyone I know. You follow through on time. And then once you're finished following through, you communicate that you have followed through. And what I like about that, because I'm like, I always think like, dude, I want to work with Sam for the rest of my life because number one, she's got skill sets that it will be really hard to compete so it would be really hard for somebody else to compete with her. But second, obviously, I trust her with every single thing in my life. Like she has the one password that like nobody knows. Sam knows that password. That's like that's some heavy, heavy trust there. But also, she's enjoyable to work with, and when she communicates, she knows how I like to be communicated with. Now, I don't really think that I'm hard to work for or I'm, like, stuck
Mhm.
up or I'm like, "Don't communicate." But maybe some of that is because you know the way that I like to work and you know the way I like to communicate about things. I don't like to have a lot of calls
Yeah.
at all. And I don't want like a ton of text and a ton of communication. I want it succinct, concrete, quick, and to the point. And you do an excellent job of that. I know some of this is just your brain. And sometimes I think like, because Sam's also a very clean person, like her house is always clean, like no dishes in the dishwasher, her bed is always made. I've always loved that about her. But I also know that when she was little, her mom like, she would hear her mom in the mornings vacuuming their house. Her mother is the same exact way, and her
Yeah.
mother actually works at the salon also and is phenomenal.
Mhm.
So, like, what do you think helps you with that? If people are listening, because people are gonna be listening that do not have this skill set,
Yeah.
okay? Following through, being your word, doing what you say you are going to do, getting better at systems.
Yeah.
You do really well with creating systems, but then be following through with
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
Like, what would your advice be to someone that just struggles with that? Like, they just cannot get a grip on following through on things.
I was definitely, like, not always like this. I remember in high school and college, I skipped class in college all the time. I was always "Oh, I have a 10-page paper due and I have 3 weeks to write it. I'm gonna take the first 3 hours before this class and just knock it out." But I think with PIP, and obviously as I matured and grew up, I realized your life gets a lot easier and there's a lot less stress when you have a plan. And that plan can look however you want it to look. Like I'm definitely ADHD too. So there are even sometimes, Heather, when you ask me my process or like an SOP that I built out, I'm like, I hope that she understands this, but like my brain knows how this works. Like hopefully hers does. And so I think my biggest thing is you have to find what works for you. And just because like PIP gives you a system to follow, we tell this to our students all the time. It's like this is the framework. You need to adjust this for what is realistic and what works for you. But I think it got down to the point where I was like, I'm tired of being messy and stressed out all the time. So the uncomfortability of making myself create those systems, this is for my personal life too, as well as for work, it got to the point where being messy and unorganized was way more annoying to me than sitting down and trying to figure something out. And so it's like if you are a person, if you're the owner and you're the CEO and you don't have an integrator and you have to be the integrator for a while, I would just say commit to one thing. I'm going to be my word on X, Y, and Z thing, or I'm going to follow up with this person by X, Y, and Z thing. I will say tech is a huge thing. Like Heather, do you remember when I used to have that cute little
Oh my
Lily
god.
Pulitzer planner with my initial on it, Erin Condren with my markers and things. And I remember Heather going to lunch with, and she was like, "You have to start working off of a digital calendar." And I was not upset because I knew it was going to be fine because I obviously trusted you. But I was like, "Oh my God, that was like an appendage that I carried around with me." But moving over to Google Calendar and a task manager, especially for people with ADHD, because you can set up notifications, you can color code it. That I think would be the first thing that I would do if I was gonna be
Absolutely.
to get like this is get yourself a digital calendar, Google Calendar, shout out. They should definitely sponsor us because we talk about them all the time. And then an app like Asana or Basecamp or Trello, Monday.com. Like there's so many things that you can get out there that you can sign up for the free version that helps. And then the other thing is I would say you just have to be willing to be dumb. You have to be willing to just feel like an idiot
Yes.
because if you're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know this, I don't know how to do this." If I did that for half the things that I do with PIP, we wouldn't even know how to do them if I didn't force myself to be like, "You know what? I have no idea about this, and I probably have no business doing any of this, but I have to because if I don't do it, who will do it?" And so that in of itself just forces you to sit in the stuff to learn it, and then guess what happens? You learn how to do it.
If you want to learn more about PIP University's Rich Life CEO, which is our only program that we offer, and how we help you sit in the CEO seat and build a leadership team around you that supports moving the company forward, just like I have with Sam and multiple other people, then click the link below to learn more. I mean, I think that we are the epitome of that. And obviously we don't want, like, I don't want the business to be like this forever. Sam, we joke. In fact, we're in the DMs with this guy right now that's looking at our CRM. And I told him, he was like, "Do you have anybody running your email list?" I said, "Yeah, Sam. She's in 14 other roles." He was like, 14. And I said, "Yep, no joke." That's obviously not, this is exactly what we coach salon owners not to do. And with my salon, it was the exact opposite. I mean, I had so many leaders, everyone knew their role. I knew my role. With PIP, it's very, very different because we have to get consistency before we can get to that spot where Sam truly is in one role. And for right now, this is just what it takes.
Yeah.
And thank God she's willing to do that. Bless her. But this is what it takes. And I think that one thing that, like, while we're still in the game, like, we're still doing this, we're still relevant, is our ability, but specifically your ability, Sam, to have so many days where you just want to throw your computer out the window because I've asked you to do something that you have no idea how to do. It takes forever.
Mhm.
It's so inefficient because you're learning all these small things and you can't figure out a piece of tech because obviously we're dealing with a lot of tech. And that is what is so good about you. And when I think about growing PIP and people on the team, that is just going to be one thing that is a non-negotiable for me. And you set the example for that of, are you resourceful? Are you proactive? Can you get a job done with very little direction from me?
Yeah.
Can you do that? And we have people here that definitely can do that. In fact, there was, one time several months ago, we had an issue with a spreadsheet. Our Google Drive hit a limit, and so I had to go in and delete stuff, and I deleted a very important spreadsheet. These are little things that I do that when I do it, I tell Sam, I'm like, "Love me. Please
Please
love
love
me."
me.
Because I know it just creates more work for her when I get in there and I'm like Hurricane Heather, which I try not to do that, but it does happen. And I deleted something, and so it was somebody else's spreadsheet, and so I reached out to them and I'm like, "Hey, it's got deleted." There was a few things that needed to be filled out on it just to, like, get it back up to date. I don't know, maybe 10 rows, if that. And I got a response back, and it was, "I don't know how to do that." And I mean, immediately I had this visceral reaction of like, "Oh, that ain't us, honey.
Mhm.
That is not us." And it was like this red flag of, that's not our culture. Even if you don't know how to do something, totally cool. You get to figure it out because
Yeah.
that's who we are. And that's the way that this company, obviously this person isn't with us anymore, but it's the exact opposite of what I feel like Sam's skill set really is. Now, Sam, like, saying all of that and all of your time that we've worked together, like, what would you say? Because obviously, anytime that you're in business and when you don't know what you're doing for the majority of the time, it's hard.
Mhm.
What would you say is, and this could be about your life in general, but just thinking back, because how long have
Well, 2016, if you remember, is when the
we
Facebook group
started
started,
PIP?
but I feel like it was really, like, 2018, like, mid-2018 when PIP, like, really started.
And that's
So,
when we started to monetize.
yeah, it was in so it's been, like, 8 years. It'll be 8 years this year.
So, what do you feel like was something where you're like, this, I had to learn this the hard way?
So, I would say short-term sacrifice versus long-term gain. So, delayed gratification outweighs short-term satisfaction every single time. And what I mean by that is not saying yes to something just because it's going to be a quick win or it's easier, it's this little dopamine hit versus waiting a little bit longer to actually get you the thing that you really want.
Let's go back to 26-year-old Sam.
Yep. Mhm, mhm.
Was she more about delayed gratification? or instant gratification?
Oh, instant gratification. I remember I got a little credit card, and I remember I would,
Oh,
like, wanna redo my
little.
room. I would wanna redo my room or something. I would want, like, a new bedspread. Well, of course, I get on, like, Urban Outfitters or Anthropologie, and I see this, like, $500 bedspread. Well, rather than me than just save $100 or $200 a paycheck and being able to pay for the bedspread in cash, I go and just get my Capital One card with a 29% APR and just swipe it, just wanting it right then and there and not really thinking about the consequence of that 29%. I didn't know what APR was when I was 26 years old. I didn't know. I would just be like, oh, I have to pay, make a minimum payment of $25 once a month. It's free money. And that, I mean, really screwed me later on in life. But I was like that with a lot of things, not just money, like learning a new skill, like trying to just do something really quick and sloppy just to throw it together. And sometimes that's fine. Sometimes that's what you have to do. But it's when it's the actual, like the video editing thing, for example, or in Facebook ads. If you just take the short route, like the instant gratification of checking a task off just to check it off versus actually figuring out how to do the thing and doing it right, it's going to take a little bit longer, but you're going to be so thankful that you set yourself up for that. This morning in the gym, perfect example. I was on my last superset. I was doing abductors and I was supersetting it with lunges. And I was looking at my clock and I was like, dang, I need to get out of here. I need to, start getting ready for the day. And I was like, I'll just do the abductors with one set of lunge. I'll do an abductor and then one set of lunges. I won't do the last two sets of lunges. That would be instant gratification. I get to leave, whatever. Then in my head, I'm like, you better not. You have goals for yourself and how you want to look in a bathing suit this summer, you need
Uh-huh.
to do those lunges. And so it took me 3 extra minutes to do those
Mhm.
2 sets, and I left the gym and I was like, "I'm so glad that I did that and I didn't take the easy way out," because you're ultimately just cheating yourself.
It's so funny to hear you say that because especially going back to back in the day where you're like, just doing something really quick and like basically halfway doing it just so you can check it off and get it done. And I see this. Stylists can be like this, front desk people can be like this, obviously owners and founders can be like this. It's just so interesting, Sam, because that is so opposite of you now. I
Oh,
mean, it
yeah.
is so opposite. And that's the other thing. It's not that you just do things and you learn things and then you do them on time. I literally tell Cody this all the time about you. I'm like, Sam does them at the highest level. If it's something new, I want to check it over and read it off first and make sure it's good in case I have any feedback. But if it's not new to Sam or if she's done it 3 times, I never need to see it again. And I have full faith and trust that it is going to be done at a level better than what I would do it. And it's going to be done on time. And I'm going to know when she's finished with it.
Yeah.
So, and I think what's so cool and really hopeful, to kind of like wrap this around is you're saying like that. And there's some things about you that like I didn't really know, like in college, if there was a paper due, like now, if there was a paper due, well, I see it all the time with you. If there's something due, you start working on it several weeks in
Well,
advance.
that's what I was saying earlier, where it's like you just get to a point where you get annoyed with yourself. And so you're like, how I'm literally the only one that's putting this pressure on myself to do this when it gets so uncomfortable and down to the wire like that. You get to this point where you're like, I just don't want to be like that anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
It
you
stresses
make
me
the
out.
effort to do it. Yeah, it stresses me out. And it's just, especially now that I'm older and I'm not a little dummy 23-year-old, bless my heart. I don't have to live like that, so I'm just not going to. Like, my comfort and my ease of life the way that it is now, I don't want that, and I'm the one that's responsible for how I feel and how I'm reacting to things.
Yeah. And it's just cool because I know when you sit down to do those things, and it's 3 weeks in advance. I know what that feels like when you're sitting in front of your computer, the calendar notification pops up, and most people, including myself, I'm getting better at this, but I'm nowhere near I'm like 20% of how good you are at this. I will want to push it off to the next day or the following week. I'm still way more last minute with things, where
Yeah.
you'll sit there and just do it, and I think that is the trick. And if you are a founder or an owner, and you're more like me, you gotta find someone that is like Sam.
Mhm.
We've talked about, like, you being in 14 different roles. We're bootstrapping this thing. It's funny because it still feels like a startup, and it is, like, not a startup. We've been doing this for a long, long time. What is the hardest part about your career or the hardest part about PIP in the
Mhm.
moment?
The thing that's the most hard about it is what we just talked about is just it's this unknown. Like, I yesterday was working on Facebook ads and got done with work yesterday, and I was walking Lorenzo, and I was like, "What if I can't figure this out? What if I'm working so hard to figure this out and it just doesn't work? And what if it takes a really long time?" I think the hardest part is living in that fear of the unknown with this looming thought of there's a chance that I'm gonna put a lot of time and effort into this. We're gonna put a lot of money into it, and it's just not gonna work, and I think that's the hardest part is dealing with that emotion and not allowing how I show up every day to be dictated by that lens of thinking.
And how do you do that?
Definitely leaning on God and really taking everything to Him, like, when I have a question about something or if I'm sitting in this icky feeling of feeling inadequate, of feeling dumb, of feeling unworthy, of feeling like I have this huge mental block of creativity and I just don't know the answer, I'll immediately stop and be like, "Lord, please take this from me. I know that this is not you. I know that you have made me smart. You have made me creative. You have made me able to figure out so many things." I'm getting chills because this is literally, I sit right here and I'm like, "Hey,
Mhm.
Jesus, do you see this ad campaign right here? I'll
Help!
be," yes, I'm like, even this morning when I sat down, because I knew after we were gonna do this episode, that's what I'm gonna start working into, and I was like, "Please infiltrate my brain with the creative strategy that I need and renew me to be able to handle this." And even just the act of praying and just giving it over to him, it takes this heaviness off, and it's almost like a reset button where I'm like, "Okay, I'm good." And then the cool thing about God is that he will come in and he will help you. And that confidence, it may not be, "Sam, you need to click this button and make the video look like this." It's not that, but it's like you'll get little nuances throughout the day where an idea will pop in your head that was not there. And I'm like, yeah, that's from him, you know? So definitely leaning on the Lord for that,
And
especially with the fear and just the unknown. And like I said, just the feeling unworthy and fearful of what if this just doesn't work at all?
And what do you do? Because obviously there's gonna be people that are listening that they don't believe or they have church hurt. What do you do when you've been praying about something for a long time? Right now, we're talking about with work, making things work, making things lighter, more sales coming in, but this could be with anything. Like, what do you do or how do you think about this when you've been praying about the same thing for a while and nothing's changing? Like, your eyes and your heart don't feel like anything is changing. It still feels really heavy. Like, what's the
Mhm.
point of still praying?
The point of still praying is the posture of faith that you sit in, of just knowing just because you're not getting the answer that you want, the thing that you're praying for, the answer isn't delivered to you the right way, it's not delivered to you in the speed that you want it to, doesn't mean that God doesn't hear you and that he isn't working on your behalf to make things happen for you. And so when I'm praying for something that I want and it's not happening and it's not happening and it's not happening, it's not happening, it's very human to get discouraged in that, but I have to remember that I serve the King of Kings. There is literally nothing that he cannot do, and I will have what he wants me to have the second, not a second later than he wants me to have it. And maybe what I'm asking for, like maybe the thing that I'm praying for, maybe God has something completely different. And a lot of times this is the thing, bigger and better than I could even think. And so the thing that I'm praying for, he's like, yeah, that's not for you. This is for you. You're just not there yet. I'm preparing you, I'm cultivating you, refining you to get you to that point. Because here's the thing about God, he's never going to put us in a situation or give us something that we can't handle. And I remember few years ago before I met Derek, I was praying for a husband, for a spouse, for somebody to come into my life, and I prayed for that very consistently, and it took a hot second for me to find
Years.
Derek now, and I truly believe that God was like, "Yeah, that not for you. That not for you. That not for you. This is for you." I was talking to one of my girlfriends about this the other day. She said, "What if I'm not supposed to get married?" I said, "Girl, nope. If God put the desire on your heart, there is someone or something out there for you. It's just not time yet. He's doing things on the back end that we have, number one, we have no business knowing about, right? Because that's for him to figure out. At least that's how I look at it. I just have to have faith that he will do what he says he will do. He is a promise fulfiller. What he says he will bring to fruition. Now, whether it's what you ask for verbatim, I don't know, maybe, but you just have to have faith that he hears you, he loves you, and that there is a plan for you that is beyond what you could ever think or imagine.
Amen. Amen. It's so true. It reminds me of Cody. Like when we're not getting the things that we want, you said he's doing work like behind the scenes, and he's also doing a work in us. I saw this video and I sent it to Brian, who was our mentor for 2 years. And she's like, when we want something so bad and then we start to idolize it.
Mhm.
And God's like, you know what? I'm going to take that from you until you don't want it as bad.
Yeah.
And I remember Cody, my husband, going through his career, and he worked for a big four, basically in tax, and he wanted to make partner. But he wanted to make partner, he wanted to make a certain amount of money, and he wanted to have a team. He wanted to be a leader of a team. And all three of those things mattered to him equally. It wasn't just the salary, it wasn't just the title, and it wasn't just the team. He wanted all three of them. And he was at a company where he was doing really, really well. And he goes above and beyond. He literally is like the only person in corporate America that acts like it is his company. Like he
Mhm.
truly acts as an entrepreneur. And I just think that's so commendable because his paycheck's coming regardless.
Yeah.
Me and you, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And for years, he was promised partner and he got passed up year after year, 5 years in a row. And it was,
Mhm.
I mean, every year I prayed so hard about it. I had so much faith. I'm like, oh, definitely this year. Every year it was a no. The last year that it was a no, the last 2 years that it was a no, I could not believe, I couldn't believe the audacity. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe the audacity of the people that were telling him, like, you're going to be up, you're going to be up. And then how all of a sudden it just wasn't his time.
Mhm.
That was really shady to me. But also, I still kept this faith, and I know that my husband didn't wanna hear it, because there was one time I said something, he's like, "I don't wanna hear that right now," because
Yeah.
it was very, very emotional. But I remember thinking and knowing and believing it's this to your core faith that it's because something better is coming. I
Yeah.
know this would not be he is being refined. He is learning new skill sets. I don't know what these skill sets are, and I don't know why he needs them, but I believe that this is what's happening and ways are being made that we don't know anything about.
Mhm.
He interviewed with other companies for 2 years, 2.5 years, got turned down by all of them. And then 2 years ago, right when we had our first daughter, Rivers, our only daughter, but our first kid, Rivers, he landed a job with somebody that he had interviewed with 2 years before,
Mhm.
and it wasn't the right time, and he got this job, and he was able to negotiate his salary. He got the title of partner, he got the team. I actually put this in a comment somewhere in Instagram. Obviously, I didn't say how much he made, but, um, I said, you know, he has 4x'd his salary, 4x'd his salary. And now there are times where I sit there and I'm like, "We're gonna acknowledge this for a second." I know we acknowledge it a lot, but during those really, really dark times when you felt like, "Why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. Where is God?"
Yeah.
That you could never imagine,
Yeah.
ever, and he will say, "No, I never could have imagined that this is where I would be." And it's honestly hard for me to believe, and I'm like, "That is how good he is." And so
Yeah,
that is a perfect example for me of what happens when the answer is no for years on end, and what's the point of keeping faith if you feel like nobody's listening? It's like because things are happening within us and around us that are so, so much better, and you and I both know he takes anything that feels negative or like it's meant to harm us or hold us back, and he turns it into good.
good. Mhm, mhm.
Really, really cool. So talking about that, what would you say is something that you once believed and now you do not believe that anymore? You had like a complete 180 in whatever that belief was.
I think the biggest one for me is I used to believe that heaven was just generic. Like, there was a lot of ways that you could get into heaven, universe. You hear people talking about God and source and the universe. And I used to even say, whatever you subscribe to, like I used to say that all the time. I was
Yeah.
really into yoga and tarot card readings and crystals and like all this stuff. And I truly believed that as long as you were a good person and you believed in something, that there was another place that we go to. Like, I definitely always believed in an afterlife that we go to. And now I don't believe that at all. I believe that there is a heaven, but I believe that there is one way to get there, and his name is Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life, and he is the only way in. And that, I think, huge 180, but even arriving to that point for me, because I grew up Catholic, I grew up in the church. So I always believed in Jesus. But then when I got into this new age thing, I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, Jesus, he's real. I definitely
Yeah.
believe in him, but not to the extent that I know in my heart now. And I had a complete, I mean, you want to say a come to Jesus moment. That's exactly what it was, to where my heart and my thinking and the way that I felt about things was completely transformed in a 30-minute time period, to where I once believed something. I do not believe that anymore because I had a physical and emotional and spiritual feeling of like, actually this is the truth. What you thought is not, that's not right. This is actually the truth. And that, I mean, it changed my life. And I know that's, people say that all the time of like, oh, it changed my life, but like it actually did in every single way that I show up, the way I show up for work, the way that I show up as a daughter, as a sister, in my relationships, as a friend. Knowing that and having the courage and the confidence and the hope of knowing and believing and having a relationship with Jesus and God is just like, it's the biggest life hack that you could ever have.
Totally. What was the when you were like it was a 30-minute where like I believed one thing and then after that 30 minutes I didn't believe that anymore. What was that? Like what was the thing?
It was 2019. It was the summer of 2019. And I like got this thought that I needed to go and buy a Bible. So I drive to Barnes and Noble on Taylorsville Road, buy a Bible, and I just started reading it. Then I started getting this feeling of you need to go to church. So I ended up going to this church that like I saw on Instagram, and I just honestly thought their branding was cool. And I was like, I'm gonna go check it out. But I remember I had gone a couple times, and then there was a Sunday in July where I was in the front row, and I don't even, I wish I could remember. You know the song, Heather. It's like, I've seen you move mountains, and I'll know you'll do it again. You know that song?
Huh? Yeah, 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 yeah. And what's that?
So I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not gonna sing it because I'm tone deaf, but that song was on, and I never raised my hands in church. I just felt weird about it. But I literally like am like lifting my hands up, tears are just flowing, and I just felt this peace soaking into me. And it was like, you are so loved by me. And I knew that was Jesus. Like in all the meditations and the kundalini and the yoga and the chants and meditation sound bath
So you
things that
were
I would be
so into
doing.
that.
And
You were so
I meditated all the time and would be really into that woo-woo stuff, and not knocking any of that, but I never felt like that. And I walked out of that place completely different. Now, do I still stumble? I'm not saying I'm over here holier than thou, I'm perfect, like, absolutely not. But the way that I feel about myself, the way that I feel about the Lord, I can literally pinpoint that exact moment and be like, "Oh, that's when I met Jesus for the first time personally and experienced him for the first time personally." And I'll
Mm.
never forget. It makes me wanna hysterically cry right now thinking about it because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what if that would have never like, what if that would have never happened?"
Yeah, it's
You
like he
know?
came and sought you out.
And so when I see and hear people talk about the universe and all that stuff, first of all, I do not judge at all because I used to think the same thing. I mean, Danielle, our best friend, used to tell me this all the time. She'd be like, "Sam, that's not true though." And I'd be like, "That's what you believe. Like, this is what I believe. Like, we can believe the same thing. It's still fine." Yeah. Until you personally experience it for yourself, it's really hard to explain it to people. That's why I don't ever want to pass judgment on people. I wanna just say, like, "Well, this is what I experienced. This is how I felt." And I notice a tangible, physical, emotional, all the things in all of my senses difference from the day that I met the Lord, literally.
That is so cool. That is so cool, and I wonder how many people like this perks their ears and perks their heart if this we're fully aware here, people that we're in an industry that this is, like, not talked about much, and
It's not popular.
it's not popular, and Sam, literally, we talk about this almost every day, and, like, we just don't care anymore. We don't
No, I don't
care
care.
about how we look or if it's like, oh, they're a little bit too into Jesus because ultimately this is about saving souls. This is
Mhm.
about leading people to the kingdom. And even that, just like that gets a little bit icky for some people. We know
Mhm.
that. We felt
Yeah.
the same way. We felt the
Yes.
same exact way when
Yeah.
we would hear
Mhm.
people talking like this, but the radical love of Jesus. I mean, phew, goodness, he will pick you up from the pits of hell.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean anything about your life is getting ready to get easier.
No, and
That's not what it means.
it will get 100 times
Yeah,
probably harder.
yeah,
And that's what I remember that feeling, and that's why I'm like, "Oh, I will talk about this all the time to anybody who wants to know," because I want every single person to feel the love that comes from the Lord. I want everyone to have that feeling and that safety and that hope that you are not randomly on this earth. You are not working for nothing. Your toils and your struggles are not for nothing. You have a purpose. You were
yes,
chosen. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are one in a billion. There will never be another one like you. And you were created by someone who will literally move mountains to have a relationship with you and for you. And Heather, like you said, pick you up out of the depths of hell. And I think about people that don't have a relationship with Jesus. And I'm like, I don't know how you go through hardship without that.
mhm.
Like how empty and sad it must be to, because I still obviously go through things and it
Oh, yeah,
still sucks and it's still
yes,
hard and I still have anxiety and I still cry and I still get
yes,
angry. But it's like, I literally, like I was talking at the very beginning of the video, it's like when I get stressed or confused, or I'm literally like, "Lord, please take
yes.
this away." And I know that He will.
And that's the difference. It's not that stuff gets easier or life is easier or life looks different, especially on the outside, and even what we feel on the inside, especially initially when something
Mhm.
goes down or initially when we're trying to figure something out or a horrible circumstance happens. I look at it like it's probably pretty much the same as what
Yeah.
anyone would go through. The differences is who you get to come home to, and that is
Mhm.
Jesus. The
Mhm.
difference is it's just as hard for someone who loves God and someone who has God in their lives. But immediately when you can call on the name of the Lord and ask him to remove and you cast it out in the name of Jesus, that's the difference right there. The
Yeah.
difference in there is hope that is left. There is a place for you to retreat in his word and with him. And when you don't have that, it is a lot more scary. It
Yeah.
is just a lot. more scary. The questioning and am I good enough? Am I ever going to be able to get this off the ground? Am I ever going to be able to heal? Am I ever going to be able to find a husband? Will my kids ever get off of addiction? Will we ever get out of debt? Will my parents ever heal their marriage? Will my daughter get out of the abusive relationship? That stuff is horrible trying to go through on your own.
Yeah.
That stuff is horrible walking through it with Jesus,
Mhm.
but it's not near as bad. It's
Yeah.
not near as bad. And there's just this sanctuary in this. Sam, you were talking before about like when you were on your walk with Lorenzo about asking, like, what if I can't figure this out? I did a podcast with Steph Fox last week, and she was like, how does fear show up for you? And I'm like, oh, pretty much in every form that you could possibly think of. Fear shows up for me. And I said, the place where it lands and the place that's scariest of all is, what if my assignment or what I've always felt like was my assignment from God, like what he wanted me to do in life, isn't that?
Mm.
Isn't what I've thought that it was? And if I didn't have God, if I was just like, well, what am I supposed to do? Especially with the way that things have looked for a while, I mean, that could crumble me. That could have
Yeah.
me make some really reckless, rash, and irresponsible decisions out of complete fear.
Yeah.
But the difference is he planted those desires in my heart, and I am being refined. We are being refined in the fire to develop something that we don't have and that we haven't had. And I have faith in that. And I
Yeah.
also have faith that our God is a God who keeps his word
Mhm.
and he does what he says he's going to do. And
Mhm.
that is what I always get to come home to. I
Yeah.
always get to come home to when I'm finished with my workday and I'm thinking, oh, I suck. This is awful. I'm dumb. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no business trying to teach people anything. I can spiral off on that. But then I get to come home to Jesus and be
Yeah.
like, what do you have to say about that? And that's the difference. And
Yeah.
that's definitely what I think we're getting at here, what we want to share with people. And I do think it's cool as we wrap up, Sam, for me to say it's been on your heart. And you have said this multiple times now to me and Danny that you feel like the Lord is really convicting you big time to like share this more with people,
Yeah.
which is so cool because I don't feel that conviction necessarily. You know, he convicted me of cussing in November of 24, which I was so sad.
Which you're doing such a good job with, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I was so sad about this because I love to cuss. I was like, cuss like a sailor my whole life. I mean, I loved cuss and like every not GD, but like pretty much every single cuss word. And I just do not cuss anymore. And then so Sam, when I hear that he's convicting you of this, I'm like, oh, this is really, really cool. And you've said it a few times. So I knew
Mhm.
that I wanted to, go over this and it's natural conversation. We talk about
Yeah.
this stuff all the time. How are ways that you plan on like the first part of this podcast, we talked about like what a systematizer you are, the integrator you are, like what's your plan or what are your thoughts if it's not a plan yet on how you get to obey that?
I definitely don't think that I have a plan yet. Maybe I should start working on that. But
Because this isn't you.
no, and I honestly, even like getting on here today, because I knew we were going to talk about this, I was a little bit nervous. And I'm like, well, again, it would be easier for me just to not talk about it.
Mhm.
But it's like, it kind of goes back to you just get so uncomfortable doing things and you're like, I don't want to be like that anymore. I feel like God is just going to move me into a place where I will be so uncomfortable to not say something that I just will. And I may not even know or plan or know what it is, but I just will do it. I definitely feel talking about it more like in my relationships with my friends who do believe and my friends who don't believe, and just talking about it like it's normal and making it normal because it is, and not being afraid to offend because it's not offensive, but it's like just allowing those conversations, just like how today was. We were talking about being an integrator. We ended up talking about the Lord, and it's because He is organic and He should be included in every single part of our life. And so, I guess my plan is just to just listen to what he wants me to do and pray for opportunities to come up to where I can share the gospel or my story that I shared with you today with whoever wants to listen, and just having the courage to say the thing and not be afraid. And I know that God will he'll put me in the places that he wants me to, and he'll give me the words that I need to say. So I think my job right now is just to ask him and to listen and do it
I
and
love
be
that. Well,
obedient.
this was a great start.
Yeah. I know. I love this. It was really nice.
Yeah, because obviously we didn't talk about talking about God, but I knew that we were gonna go there because I didn't see
Yeah.
the answer to your questions until we got on here. So this was so much fun though. I hope you guys really enjoyed the conversation with Sam. And Sam, I just love you endlessly and I'm so grateful for you. And I love seeing the work that God is doing in your life and how seriously you take it and how in his word you are. It is very inspiring in that regard. It's like something I totally look up to, and it
Mm,
makes me want to be more like you to see just how you are in his word and listening to him with something that is not normally you and does
yeah.
not come easily to you with like sharing God with other people. I just think it's
Yeah.
really, really cool. So I
Well,
love
thank
you
you.
and thank you
I
so
love you
much for
too.
being on.